You know, we often want to see karma play out. We want the apology, we want the justice, we want the person who hurt us to be exposed, humbled, or finally understand what they did. But the truth, karma rarely makes noise. It doesn't always show up in the way we expect, but it does show up. And sometimes it's unfolding right in front of us in silence. Because when someone wrongs you, the universe doesn't need a grand announcement to restore balance. It simply aligns consequences with actions, and it does so in ways that are deeply personal, often invisible, and always accurate. So today we're going to look at the quiet signs that someone is already receiving their karma, not out loud, not on social media, but in the silent corners of their life where masks fall off, relationships crack, and truth catches up. One of the most telling signs that someone is receiving their karma without it being broadcast is when their reputation slowly begins to unravel. Not through scandal or gossip, not with a headline or confrontation, but through subtle, undeniable shifts in how people begin to see them. It begins with discomfort. People in their circle can't quite put their finger on it, but something feels off. The charm they once had now feels rehearsed. The confidence that used to inspire now feels performative. Their words carry less weight. The laughter around them becomes more strained, and slowly but surely, others begin to feel what you felt: the manipulation, the ego, the lack of accountability. Here's the thing about energy. It introduces you before you speak, and no matter how polished someone may seem on the outside, the truth has a way of leaking through the cracks. That's karma. Not loud, not vengeful, just persistent. People start to pull back, invitations stop coming, support becomes lukewarm. Their name, once spoken with admiration, now comes with caution. Relationships they used to rely on start slipping away, not in a dramatic storm, but in quiet exits, unanswered texts, shorter conversations. Karma doesn't need a scene. It just plants enough doubt for people to reevaluate. This fracturing of reputation is deeper than losing popularity. It's the collapse of the mask they built, the one they wore to hide their behavior, the one they used to protect their version of the story. When that mask begins to fail, what's left is the truth. And the truth has a weight no lie can carry forever. You may never see them exposed publicly. You may never hear the full story unravel. But if you pay close attention, you'll see it. The subtle exile, the way people whisper instead of praise, the distance growing between them and the version of themselves they tried to sell to the world. That's karma moving through their world like a quiet storm, eroding what once protected them, not to destroy them, but to reveal them. And no mask, no follower count, no performance can stop it. One of the most unmistakable and poetic signs that karma is silently working is this: the very behaviors someone used to hurt others begin to circle back and hurt them. Right way. It doesn't always happen right away. In fact, it rarely does. But eventually, life creates a mirror. And that mirror reflects back everything they once projected outward. The manipulation, the lies, the betrayal, the emotional games, they all come home to roost. And suddenly, they find themselves on the receiving end of the very energy they once unleashed. Lied to get ahead, and now they're surrounded by people who lie to them. They twisted the truth, and now their truth is constantly questioned. They made others feel small, and now they feel overlooked, invisible, or dismissed. That's not coincidence. That's karma operating with precision. See, behavior is a form of energy, and energy is never lost. It's transferred, transformed, and returned. Karma isn't about punishment, it's about balance. It's about restoring what was thrown out of alignment. So when someone causes harm with intention or neglect, the universe doesn't need to strike them down. It simply allows their own patterns to echo back until they finally understand. What makes this so powerful and often painful is that it happens silently. Outwardly, things may still look fine, but inwardly, they're living the very chaos they once caused. They may start to feel paranoid, distrusting everyone. They may begin to question their worth because no matter how hard they try, their efforts don't land. Their words don't stick. Their charm doesn't work. And that's the backfire, not some grand explosion, but a steady collapse of the system they built to control and manipulate others. What once worked like a weapon now fails them completely. And the harder they try to use the same tactics, the more obvious and ineffective they become. Eventually, they reach a breaking point, not because someone else called them out, but because their life stopped responding to who they used to be. And that realization that the very tools they once used are now the reason for their pain, that's karma. Not as a punishment, but as an invitation to grow, to face their own reflection, to finally stop running and own what they created. And whether or not they accept it, that's their choice. But the mirror doesn't go away. Karma keeps holding it up until they either break it or break through. There's a kind of karma that doesn't take away a person's success. It simply takes away their ability to enjoy it. And that might be the most powerful consequence of all. On the outside, might look like they're still winning. They got the promotion, they're in a relationship, they have followers, influence, money, or status. But if you look a little closer, there's an unease, a restlessness, an ache they can't name. This is what happens when someone gets what they want, but not in alignment with who they were meant to be. Because karma doesn't just work through what you lose, it works through what you gain, but can't hold with peace. You see, if they lied, manipulated, or hurt others to get ahead, then what they achieved wasn't truly earned. It was taken. And anything taken through harm will never bring harmony. So now, even with the job, the house, the applause, they're not fulfilled, they're haunted by it. They can't relax, they're constantly looking over their shoulder, worried someone will find out who they really are behind the image. They don't trust the love they receive because deep down they know it was attracted to a version of themselves that wasn't real. The praise doesn't satisfy them anymore. It feels hollow, forced. And instead of feeling grateful or proud, they feel anxious, disconnected, and surprisingly empty. Here's the harsh truth. Success without integrity is a prison. It looks like a reward, but it feels like a sentence. Because deep down, they know how they got there. They know who they had to hurt. They know the corners they cut, the hearts they manipulated, the people they used. And that knowing is what robs them of peace. They try to fill that void with more noise, more distractions, more validation, more things. But it never lands because you can't numb misalignment and you can't fake peace. This is karma showing up in its most graceful form. It doesn't strip them of their achievements. It strips them of joy in those achievements. It whispers to them, this isn't real, you know it. Now what will you do with that truth? So if you've ever looked at someone and thought they got away with it, Understand this. Sometimes karma looks like getting everything you ever wanted, only to realize it doesn't mean anything anymore. And that internal unraveling, that's not visible on the outside, but it is very real. And it's louder in silence than any punishment ever could be. There is something profoundly humbling about watching someone trip over the very traps they once set for others. It doesn't happen dramatically or all at once. Karma isn't interested in public humiliation, it's interested in reflection, and nothing reflects more clearly than when someone's own behaviors begin to backfire on them. Slowly, silently, and in ways that are eerily familiar. They use manipulation to get their way, but now they're surrounded by people who don't take them seriously. They once sowed seeds of doubt, twisting truths to make others question themselves, but now they are doubted, their words held in suspicion, their intentions second-guessed. They tried to control outcomes, but life keeps showing them how little control they actually have. That's karma, not just returning energy, it's recycling it. When a person builds their world on manipulation, ego, or deceit, they often think they're immune to consequence. They believe they're smarter, more strategic, untouchable. But what they don't see, until it's too late, is that their own behaviors are digging a quiet hole beneath them. Every time they lie, they lose trust. Every time they betray, they weaken their foundation. And eventually they find themselves in situations where the tactics that once helped them survive now leave them stranded. Their charm doesn't work anymore. Their excuses fall flat. The people who used to defend them grow tired. The control they once had over a narrative slips away, and instead of gaining influence, they start losing credibility, one interaction at a time. And perhaps the most painful part of this karma is the confusion they feel. They can't understand why things keep going wrong. They keep repeating the same behaviors, expecting the same results, and life keeps delivering the opposite. That's the trap. They're stuck in the cycle they created. The same games, the same manipulations, only now those tactics don't protect them, they expose them. This is the turning point karma creates, not to destroy them, but to give them a chance to wake up, to see that they're not being punished, they're being mirrored. Life is showing them with precision what it feels like to be on the receiving end of their choices. The lies they once used to tear others down now block their own path. The coldness they used to guard their ego now keeps real love out. The chaos they once created for others now lives quietly in their own home. And the longer they avoid accountability, the more their own behaviors keep working against them until they finally realize you can't outrun what you repeatedly choose. Eventually, your own energy becomes your greatest teacher. So if you're waiting for karma to knock them down, you don't need to. Life is already teaching them softly but consistently that what you put out into the world always finds its way back. And when it does, it speaks their language. There's a kind of karma that no one sees, no one talks about, and yet it's the heaviest of all. It doesn't show up in losses or public downfalls. It doesn't arrive with broken relationships or visible consequences. Instead, it lives deep within the person. It follows them into silence, into stillness, into the mirror. This is the karma of truth and how it haunts someone who refuses to face it. See, when someone causes harm, betrays trust, manipulates love, or breaks hearts, they might get away with it externally. No one may call them out. They may move on untouched, even appearing to thrive. But what they don't escape is themselves. There comes a moment, sometimes years later, when the noise around them quiets. The distractions aren't enough. And in that stillness, they are left with one thing they cannot silence: their conscience. They know what they did. They know who they hurt. They know the choices they made when no one was watching. And no matter how well they pretend, no matter how many excuses they craft or stories they rewrite to protect their image, deep down, the truth knows them. That's the thing about karma. It's not just what happens to you, it's what settles in you. And this kind of karma doesn't destroy your life, it unsettles your soul. They may go to bed with company, they may celebrate accomplishments, but there's a moment when the noise dies down, when the lights go off, when the world isn't watching, and in that moment they hear it, that tiny voice whispering, "You were wrong." And it doesn't stop. It's not cruel, it's honest. And honesty, when avoided for too long, becomes a ghost that haunts everything. They'll try to drown it out with distractions, overworking, new relationships, validation. But it always comes back in moments of weakness, in flashes of memory, in someone else's story that sounds just a little too familiar, because truth is patient. It doesn't need revenge. It just waits for the silence to speak. This is how karma really works. It brings the truth full circle, and it doesn't require anyone else to deliver it. The weight of self-awareness, when ignored for too long, becomes unbearable. You can see it in their eyes, the tiredness, the slight twitch when someone mentions the past, the sudden defensiveness when you say something that hits a little too close. That's not confidence. They're protecting a wound they never let heal, a wound they created. And here's the most sobering part. They often think they're hiding it well, but the people around them can feel it. Energy doesn't lie. No matter how well someone plays the part, their spirit carries the truth. It shows up in their tone, in their inability to sit in silence, in their restless pursuit of something they